But Sabine, I've got 4 more questions. If you don't mind, we'll try to keep it in under 5 minutes. Do you mind answering my fantastic 4 questions?
I'll do my best.
Okay. So the first question I ask is really revolves around your life and the brevity of life. The Stoics say we should meditate daily on the fact that we're all going to die. In the Bible, it is said that the righteous live to be 120 years old. So we're about, a third or a half of the way there in my case, maybe a third of the way there in your case. Anyway, I want to ask you, Sabine, when you do depart from this chunk of space dust, what wisdom or values do you most want to leave in what's known as an ethical will, or in Hebrew it's called a zava'ah? It's basically something that contains your personal wisdom for both your biological children and your ideological children.
Oh, Jesus, that's a big question. So I guess what I'm trying to communicate a lot is that we're all in this together on this planet. We're not single individuals, and we have to think about how we interact with other people on a global scale. And I think I would like to leave behind a little bit more awareness about how difficult it can be to make sense of human interaction on such a large scale, like we see it, for example, on social media. Like, I think this is something that has brought the issue to a lot of people's attention, but it's also something, of course, that we see in politics, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Sabine, for that answer. The next question revolves around a far more distant future event, which is billions of years from now. Perhaps, if you've ever seen the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey by renowned science fiction author Sir Arthur C. Clarke, who is the namesake for the institute here that I associate director of, the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination. Anyway, there are these monoliths, and these apes and primates see them, and then they kind of go around the universe, and we're not really sure what they are. But I want to ask you, if you had a time capsule that would last for 1 billion years, and you wanted to put on it or in it, not a CD-ROM or something, but you want to put something in it that summarized the grandiosity of humanity, of what we had achieved, maybe in science, and you wanted to do so, what would you put on this monolith? What would you put in it? What fact or attribute of human accomplishment is most worthy to brag about to some future alien civilization?
So I guess I'm afraid I would go for something obviously high tech. Whatever's available at the time. Maybe a quantum computer, something like this. If I don't have a quantum computer, maybe just a phone, just something that shows, look, that at least we got that far, right?
Yeah, we made newsletters, which you subscribe to. Great. Okay, now the last 2 questions. That's right, we tweeted. Okay, second to last question, Sabine. Another quote from Sir Arthur C. Clarke, who says, when a distinguished but elderly scientist says something is possible, they are most certainly right. When they say something is impossible, they are very probably wrong. I want to ask you, Sabine, what have you most recently changed your mind about? Not that you're elderly, but what have you changed your mind about in science?
Well, I constantly change my mind back and forth on a couple of questions. One of them is is it modified gravity or dark matter? I think I've switched back and forth a couple of times. Another thing that we touched on is the question, do gravitons exist? Is gravity actually quantized, or is it emergent, and you really only have gravitational waves? So those are a couple of things that I switch back and forth on. I guess that during this whole pandemic thing, I've also changed my mind on some issues of science communication, if that counts. I see that there's a big virtue in getting things out in a simple form. I guess it's not so surprising that as a scientist myself, I on the side of too much information, right? Because I'm always like, they need to know all this and all the asterisks and the fine print. But I think I realize that there are situations where this just doesn't work. You have to put out a simple message and just tell people what to do.
Very good. Okay, Sabine, the final fourth question of my existential questions, as I called them, even before you wrote this wonderful book, Existential Physics, is revolving going back in your own personal world line. And it is relevant to Sir Arthur C. Clarke's so-called third law. And he said, the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. And guess what? That's how I got the name of my podcast. Very creative, isn't it? I'm going to ask you, Sabine, going back in your life, what mysterious aspect of your life perplexed you when you were a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old? And yet, looking back through the lens, the telescope of time, now would you tell yourself, you'd give yourself advice as a 20-year-old to give you the courage to do what you've done and go into the impossible?
Well, so I'm afraid I don't really know how to answer this question. I think if I look back when I got interested in physics, it was pretty much through the impossible. It was through science fiction and, hyperdrives and all that kind of fancy stuff that they have in science fiction. And I wanted to know how much of it is actually true. Like, how much of it is real science? How much can you actually do? Maybe for me that's the thing. I kind of secretly believe that it's actually possible to travel faster than the speed of light. Not within the theories that we currently have, but that may not be the end of the story.Maybe
the aliens will tell us, right, Sabine? Well, Sabine, it's been a delight as always.
Sorry, if I can just add to this, this is why I think it matters, because if there are aliens out there and they have further developed technology, they would be using the faster than light drive, right?
That's right. Exactly. That's the promise that aliens hold for us, if it's not indeed religion. And it is an existential matter in any case. And Sabine, I want to thank you for everything you do around the world, inspiring literally millions of people through your videos, your books, your blog, your newsletter, all of which I subscribe to. And you should too, and get this wonderful new book and her first book, Lost in Math. It's a beautiful a companion to these two. Anything else you'd like to mention, Sabine, that you're like my viewers and listeners to know about?
No, this is just wonderful. Love talking to you. I think you have a great channel with a lot of super interesting interviews.
Thank you, Sabine. That means the multiverse to me.